they're gonna be sorry they were ever born. Who? All of them.
Yeah, W. Look, beat 'em up just like it's WWW. Promise you right when I trouble you. Yeah, look, you cannot see what's in front of you. You cannot see what's in front of you. Yeah.
Welcome to the USL Live podcast for the Season 53 Week 2 preview. I'm your host, Romulocks, and this show is a weekly podcast where we look at the results from the previous week, discuss the upcoming matches, and try and predict the winners and how that will impact the rest of the season. Join me to discuss all that and more. I am honored to welcome into the broadcast booth my co-hosts for this show. First up, we have Yosh.
Hey, ni hao.
We have Herthbul.
Evening, gentlemen.
And we have Eric.
Fuck Fosto.
For more information on the Unified Skirmish League, including schedule, rosters, or how you can be a part of this historic league, we ask that you please visit uslzone.com. First up, we're going to talk about Week 1 games. They took place on Morgan Base, and I want to kind of first talk about that. Now that we're past Week 1 and we played on Morgan Base for the first time as part of an official USL game, what did you guys think about Morgan Base? Give me some feedback. Let's start with you, Yosh.
Fun map. Flows really nice. You're able to kind of move around and do whatever you want on that map. It's really fun. I think mid was utilized pretty well. Obviously, south was, good on that map. I didn't see very many people go north a whole lot, which shocked me. I think later on we'll see that. But for right now, I think people wanted to not really play north too much. So, other than that, it's a welcome addition to the map pool, and thank you for making it, Molo.
Let's go to Herth.
I like the map. It seems relatively balanced. I like the bottom river really gave squads a big dilemma of how many do you send under it, 1 or 3, and I know there's back and forth amongst all the squads on what they feel is the best in that moment. It does feel a little campy though. Like if you get a lead, it's pretty easy to shell up either south of your base or adjacent to it, because it's really hard to try and pinch that from the north because you've got to basically go through their base, which you can't because of the baselines. It was kind of sad though that no one really played north other than V2, and we'll get to that when we get to the match. But like Yosh said, this was just Week 1, so when we see this map later on, hopefully some new strategies come into play.
Yeah, I think it was a good map, balanced overall. Everything else has been touched. It's a welcome addition. Good job, Mola.
Yeah, I agree. I'll concur with everybody else's view on that, and also say thank you to Molo. It was I know that's a labor of love with the way the map editor works. So thank you very much for the time you put into it, Ender. It's a welcome addition, and I really like the diversification of play. The way it kind of there's some unique things about this map that we haven't seen before, and I kind of like that, particularly with the mid flanks. Anyway. Let's move on to our games from Week 1. First up, let's talk about Darkslayers defeated Out for Blood 66-40. Your MVP in that game was Ender. Yosh, what happened there?
Imperial is what happened. Out for Blood had no answer for him. He was able to run around, do whatever he wanted. He was super effective on the mortar or on the nader. And when he switched to demo, the effectiveness didn't stop. I know Ender got MVP, but it should have been Tyrael because he was the one winning that game for at least the first 15 minutes of that match. So just wanted to shout him out on that. Out for Blood, they were missing Mecca. He's a huge part of that team and can't be understated what he brings to them. So other than that, I thought, Sabo played well. I thought Ender played well, some of the Marines from Out for Blood really didn't play too well though. They had looked a little lost out there. The medic situation, Neg had a rough game. I hate to say it, but he did. They was not able to defecate the win today. So because of that, we saw the results of it.
Herth?
I think Out for Blood kind of got away from their game plan a little in that one, because I know during the SBs, they would normally go up and then they almost would play defensive, kind of sit back, wait for the enemy to come to them. But I noticed that, like at one point around, halfway through the game, they're up 1, and they could have gone with that strategy. Instead, they ended up pushing into Darkslayers, and it just spiraled out of control from there. they just really had no answer to Ender and Tyrael. Hell, I mean, Tyrael started as Nader and was dominating, then he went demo and was dominating with that too. And
Yeah.
they just really didn't have a good answer for Chucky because Chucky was playing a very annoying AT. He wasn't just going for the kills; he was just annoying the whole game, and they would periodically overcommit on him, and it did not pay off whatsoever.
His part of the game was a really, I think, overlooked aspect because he was always on that northern flank, hanging out in the building an awful lot and playing very passively. He finished with 6-4. But to your point, Herth, I think Chuck was a big factor in terms of distracting them and making them look north constantly because his AT sneaking out there was deadly. If you didn't look at it and give it attention.
Yeah. I mean, Tyrael had a great game. I think you see the over-aggression when they're up by 1 because I believe ESO might have led, and ESO just likes to push and hold forward key. So that's where you see Mecha missing because Mecha's going to lead when he shows up, right? And they look more polished when he's there. Having Neg go 1-10 doesn't help. Victim 2-7. Other than ESO, I think all the other players had a pretty bad game. SV managed to get some garbage time kills towards the end there, going from 5-9 to 9-11. So it's kind of hard to have one person carry the team.
I completely agree. I think ESO was the only, kind of. It wasn't even a great game for ESO. It was a pretty normal game for him. But compared to everybody else, it was a fantastic game for ESO. Mountain, we were just needing more from him. Danny did fine, but I think there was some rough deaths for Hop and Leak kind of the same. Although Leak wasn't as noticeable. Apollo had a rough game, and then both the medics I thought just did not perform up to snuff. I definitely think Neg was the situation, was the problem there, but. There was a whole lot of problems to that game, and I think we have a question about that later. I don't really know what to pinpoint as the single biggest problem. I just know there were a lot of problems, and what was consistent on the other side with Darkslayers is they didn't play a perfect game by any means, but they were consistent and they were always pushing. And Yosh is exactly right. They were led in that whole thing by Tyrael, who walked on the field, and whether it was Grenadier or Demolition, he absolutely lit that field up. I think he was the MVP. I think Ender came alive there at the end, but 13-5 King was the story the whole game, definitely for the first 20 minutes. Fausto played very well. I thought Sabo. I'm going to be honest. I think Sabo plays way better than that in future games. I think there was some jitters. I don't know what that was about. There was some of the way he was retreating was just kind of sloppy for Sabo. And I know I know he'll perform better than that in future games. But yeah, I've already said what I said about Chuck. I think Typhoon even played well. I think there's a lot to be said for Darkslayers. They had a really good game. Really, really awesome result for them with the 26-point victory in that game. Let's go ahead to Birds defeating V2, 65-23. Your MVP in that game was Colossal.
Oof. Actually, let me give some credit here. This game wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. V2 actually played it smart. They were the only people that went north. I think, like Hertz said, they kept it pretty close to their base. A strategy that, we probably should have done, to be honest. So, shout out to them. They kept it really close in a game that people thought the game was going to get out of hand pretty close. So, whoever's leading over there, good job on that.
No, I agree. They definitely tried to do what they needed to have the best chance at winning. I mean, was it kind of not fun at times? Yeah, but hey, you got to do anything you can to win. So, and I was at least happy that we got to see the north side of the map at least once this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, my only thing about some of the plays that they were doing on the north is they had everybody ambushing, right? So they didn't have anybody actually getting vision. And I know Bowen and DP touched on that in the announcing, because they could have taken opportunities when you guys had 3 people running past them, but their entire team was ambushing, so they didn't see you run by. I mean, obviously the result is the result. We expected Birds to win. It was closer than we thought. I thought Bax had a good game once he changed from Ranger and took LMG from Smackrock. I watched him run Chompy down in the building, and it was kind of funny to see. But other than that, good game.
Yeah, I was, me and Hearth were stuck up north for a lot of it, so I didn't get to see the whole battlefield. But they did do a good job. I appreciate what Yosh said. They did do some things right. I didn't know what kind of team we were going to see, and they were cohesive. They had a battle plan. They tried to execute it. Not everything went according to plan, of course. Birds is a pretty strong Marine lineup, that's for sure. But at the same time, they did a good job of standing up. And I think that score, 65-23, I think is pretty good considering. Yeah, that's pretty much what I could say. I think V2, keep your chins up. That was a solid performance for a first game. And I'd like to see what you guys do to build on that. Next up, we have Season 27 defeated Weaponized Autism 90-25. So this one a bit bigger of a victory than the V2 game, that's for sure. Your MVP in that game was Splitta. Let's talk about it, Yosh.
Bad game from everybody that played on Weaponized Autism, to be honest. It was led pretty bad. I think the game plan wasn't correct. Going into this match, we knew that, or at least I've been telling Bird, hey, this can get bad really quick if we don't play this correctly. And we kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. And maybe that's part my fault too, where I should have been like, hey, we need to do something else. Right? Going south, we're not going to outfight these guys. We're never going to do that. And we just kept going south and getting pounded every single time. Right? I thought Pandy and Ninja played well in that game. I thought they did well. For me, I was stuck holding Sav most of the time. Right? That sucks. He's a better player than me. He's going to beat me. But, I just contained, and the South team got wrecked every time, at least for the first 4 fights. The only success we had is when we went into mid and changed things up. So, other than that, I just think it was a poor game all around. Splitter, I thought, played okay. Mostly Sav and Chris, right? Those are the guys that were kind of, and Kaga. Kaga didn't run it down like he normally did. He was not W key Kaga. He was playing smart, playing patient. And if that's the Kaga we're going to see for the whole season, that's scary, right?
Okay.
Because part of our game plan was to, hey, focus down Kaga when he runs ahead because we're going to draw a med to him and we're going to kill him like that. And he did not play like that. So that was a little bit of a shock to us. Other than that, that's how it went.
Yeah, I feel bad for Yosh, but let's give Season 27 some credit. They did play a very well-rounded game. They kept out-angling you the whole time. Like you said, Kaga and Splitta and Sav and Chris and the rest of the team just absolutely beat you guys down. But you already called out all your faults, at least a good chunk of them. You guys just didn't switch it up. You would walk into the same out angles multiple times. And even the one time you guys did go mid and won your first fight about 14 minutes into the game, after that, you overpushed, died, and you guys went back south again to what you already lost. So, again, it's the first weekend, first match for you guys. Hopefully, you can kind of put this behind you. Try and get whatever you can learn from it, and just look forward to next week.
Yeah, Yosh already touched on most of it. I think the other issue is, obviously, when we keep going south, they're going to know what we're doing. This was the One Love Big Bird version where he did the same against a Sov squad where he just kept going south on Chaos 10. And if you already know where the team's going to be, it's easy to out-angle. I thought the positioning was like we had the same talent fighters to sit there and fight even fights when we do not. The game plan should have been to overload their weak side, and we did not do that. Yosh already said, Pandy and Ninja were the only people that played well on our side. Chris walked so Splitta could run. Chris drew a lot of attention on that north and even south team so that Kaga and Split could feast on everybody. And Yosh already touched on it. We expected Kaga as an LMG to kind of be in the forefront, kind of being super aggressive. And from what I saw, it was mainly him on the underneath holding back 3 people so that they out-angled the kind of like the middle group. Saw a nuisance as AT as always, and they just played way better than us. I mean, we expected it with their top people to show that they were going to wreck us, just not that bad.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think what Yosh said is probably the best point, that this came down to leadership. And on the season 27 side, I'm told Pister led that game, but if you told me Sav led that game, I wouldn't blink an eye. They were so in control the whole game in terms of positioning, and they corralled you guys every single battle. And it was interesting to watch the flanks get in place. Also, and Gift said it on the broadcast over and over again. You guys sent 3. I mean, South is king. We get that point, but it's about how you approach South too. You guys sent 3 underneath the river every single time, and as Gift pointed out, there's a strong argument to be made that only one person should be below river to get that flank. Because if you send 3 down there, it is so easy to angle out those guys with like a focus fire from the North group. It's so easy to do that. And you watch that happen over and over again. You guys just got angled and absolutely shredded. Just, I mean, Swiss cheese. It was gross to watch. And yeah, to Yosh's point as well, up north, it was, it wasn't just Sav, Yosh. You had a one-on-one with Champion that I noted in the broadcast. And I mean like, on a flank on the right, that is a rough draw for you, my man.
But he didn't kill me.
He did. It took a long time for him to get down there. You did hold him up, but he was murdering.
That's my job is to hold him.
You did a good job. You did a good job.
You saying that was like, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm here to hold Chris, and if I could do that, that should be an okay win for my team.
You did.
Right?
You did a good job. He did get to push, and he pushed. He walked right into where he wanted to walk, and then shot south. But I mean, it was just rough in terms of the situation. You guys got corralled and put into one situation, and we beat a dead horse now. But that roll into South, the way you guys rolled, was just, man, it just sets you up for failure so many times. And I did like to see the North get used. Maybe one time it did. But you just have to turn forward and look at the next game, and I think that's what WA needs to do. There's still that's a good roster over there, and there's a lot of hope for the future, I think. Let's move on and start talking about week 2 games. We've got, first up, it looks like we don't have this scheduled officially yet, but Out for Blood is going to be taking on Weaponized Autism. Very interesting draw considering what happened last week. Yosh, how do you break this one down now?
I mean, this is kind of make or break for WA. They have to play well, right? That's just what it comes down to. It. If not, it looks like a grim start of the season. Losing Eric's not gonna help. He's not gonna be able to play in this game, though. I'm gonna tell you that. Yeah, and if you don't see some markable improvement, then we'll see what else is gonna happen, right? I may not be able to show. It depends on what the Thunder do. If they make if they win it all Thursday, then I'll be there. If not, I'll be watching the game on Sunday. So I won't be around. But hopefully my guys practice hard this week, and we clean up some of the things that we did wrong on last Sunday.
Earth?
I just really want to see all the guys from WA really put their heads down and just start grinding and really working for this win this next weekend, because it's going to be a mental battle more than anything. You just got to put that beat down you guys just took behind you. I mean, it's a new map, so hopefully it'll be easier to get over the hump. Look at it with a fresh set of eyes. I mean, again, like you said, losing Eric's not going to help, but then it's technically not going to hurt or help the other team either. So just mentally, just got to toughen up.
Yeah, I fully expect them not to be able to play. Yeah, no, it's gonna be rough for WA, especially if Yosh is busy watching the game, because Bird's not gonna be there either. So then it falls on Pandy to lead, which it's probably not the worst thing, in all honesty, after what happened last week, right? Um, that just means Pandy's got to really focus up if he's stuck leading, and Sam's going to have the game of his life. Mecca still not going to be there for Alfred Blood, but I think they definitely still have the better fighters overall. If WA can take advantage of the medic situation Alfred Blood has, then they have a chance. I think WA is going to play this way slower and could keep it close in terms of score, but I think Alfred Blood still kind of pulls away with the win, probably by like 10, 15 kills.
Yeah, I kind of follow along with that logic. I think WA is in for a rough one this week, just based on just the roster basically itself. You got some losses, some people not going to show up, and yes, Mecca's not going to be there, but that roster still on the other side is pretty strong, even without Eric. I'm interested to see who does show up for Weaponized Autism, though. I think a lot falls on Pandy's shoulders here. I think Stav and Bonds are going to have to play out of their minds. That's for sure. And Draco just became a starter for your team for sure, which he probably should have been anyway. We want some big games for the bottom of that roster is all I can say. And guys like Stoink or Spoils, even, like, this is a chance for you guys to get in there and get a game in if you're available and active and ready to play. But I do think this is going to be OFB's game, just based on the results of last week. So let's go ahead to the next game, which is Birds versus the first match for This Is Fine. They had a bye last week, so this is their first game against Birds, starting out in week 2. Yosh?
I want to say I think this is going to be pretty bad. Hopefully we see some more rotational pieces like Rom get in this game. We don't see the Birds full lineup because This Is Fine. It's their new first season or first time in the league. So you got a lot of new players over there. And then you got a lot of the evolution core too. So hopefully they took a page from what V2 did. They try and slow the game down. And hopefully it goes okay for them. But I think this is going to get pretty bad pretty quick.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them. I'm just curious to see, since it's kind of their first game, to see what strategy they're going to come out with and how they're going to play this map. I mean, hopefully Exodus is trying to lead these guys, and whoever his co-captain is for this one, who else is leading. But what I've seen in the squad battles right now, it's not been promising.
Yeah, unlike Morgan Base, Y Station doesn't really have those spots that you can really set up an ambush effectively unless you work around that mid area. Other than that, you are kind of stuck as like a weaker team really holding even numbers, and Birds is just going to feast on that. I don't see this one being all that close. Even if they slow it down initially, once Birds wins that first fight, they are going to, especially with the way the baselines are kind of set up on this map, they are going to corral you within your base so they know exactly where they'll let you out, but they're going to know exactly where you're going to be going, and they'll set up.
Yeah, everybody said it already. I do think that I mean, Axis has a chance to shine here for sure. I think Ripper can be really effective on this map. I'll be interested to see what some of these other guys do because they just don't have a lot of experience in this league, and they're going to need some of them to play. Jaguar, Loaf, even RRU. Like, these guys that don't have a ton of experience, they're going to have to play in this game, and with no experience to measure from. We'll see how that goes. But I do think it's going to be a pretty solid victory for Birds, would be my guess. Let's go ahead to Season 27 versus V2, the 11 o'clock game.
So let's hope V2 have learned from last week and don't get, I think it was 4 players respect or something like that.
Kept going back to the baseline.
CT 4 times.
Yeah, something silly like that, Gosh, I get it. You're backed up to your base, but you can't go in the lines. The baselines have been automated this season. Shout out to Axis for doing that for us. And we kind of saw that last week in the game, where I think at one point in time, V2 was down to 6 people. You know, so
Cut him off at the knees.
yeah, maybe that helped them keep the score low. You know, that may be the strat. You can't run up the score on me if I have one player in. You know, maybe that's what WA should have did versus season 27. We just leave one guy in. Um, but other than that, look to kind of do what y'all guys did last week if you can. It's a different map, so it's a little bit tougher, but there are some interesting spots on this map that you can hold that really isn't been explored yet. So hopefully Bax and company kind of, put their thinking cap on. And rough draw for these guys, man. Like
week
top
1 and
two
week
teams
2.
back to back. Yeah, man, that's rough.
Yeah.
Like, and it only gets better from here. So keep your heads up, guys. You did fine last week. Hopefully we see more of the same.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they kind of do with season 27 what they did versus Birds. They kind of use strategies different from everybody else, kind of introduce some chaos to the game. So that's going to be their best chance, but I expect Pister and Sov to adapt pretty quickly to whatever they're going to try, and it's going to be a long 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, season 27 is going to do exactly what Birds is going to do to This Is Fine. They're going to win that first fight and then have eyes on where they try and go outside of their base. I believe it's Smackrock leading for V2. If I saw the clip correctly, it sounded like Smackrock was leading.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what he decides to do. I don't think they should do that delay that they did on this map. Just because you can get across Y Station pretty quickly. So if you do the delay that they did against Birds, where they sit in their baselines for like 20-30 seconds, season 27 is going to know where they're going right away. So they need to be careful about that. I do hope that they slow things down. Hopefully people, stop crossing the baselines and just do what you can. Good luck. I think this is going to be just another kind of blowout win for season 27.
Yeah, I agree with the result, but I think this is a building opportunity for V2 for sure. If you know into it, you're going to lose. You have nothing to risk really, and they don't in this game. I'd like to see a better performances from some individuals for sure, like not crossing lines for CT. I liked what I saw from Bax in week 1. I think he did a fine job, very fine. I thought Smack played better himself than he has in previous seasons. I'd like to see him do that as well. But then, you definitely, I think Cal can play better than that. I'd like to see him step up the game. Just look for just some market improvement from last week individually. I think that's the goal. And you have an opportunity to do that. Y Station it'll be an interesting map to be at such a disadvantage on to begin with. I'm interested to see how they handle it, and hopefully they have just some improvement is the goal. So that'll cover week 2 games. So we've just let's talk about some mailbag questions sent in. Okay. Again, we if you have mailbag questions, feel free to send them to me in PM on Discord. But this is what I've got so far. Season 53 started with some very interesting games in week 1. I'd like to ask the panel, which of these results surprised you the most? Was it Darkslayer's upset victory over Out for Blood? V2 showing up with 8 players and actually putting up some competition against Birds? Or Weaponized Autism getting smoked by 65 to season 27?
It's got to be the last one. Season 27.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's most surprising. I think the Darkslayer's upset, though, I thought was pretty. I mean, I don't think many people took that bet, but with Mecca gone, I called it in the beginning for the broadcast because Mecca being gone was just the lineups looked a whole lot more even on paper. And like I said, Darkslayers have been playing together already, so it wasn't that big of a surprise. But 65, that was something else. Anybody got any other comments on that, or move on?
No.
Okay. How does a player and squad avoid getting demoralized when playing against stacked squads in a situation where you have teammates who don't listen or otherwise have zero awareness?
Oof.
Damn.
That's hard to do. um, if it was just one of those things, right? Like if the people were listening, it's easy to just say like, look, these guys got more experience. If you look at it from the point of view that everybody's got more experience than us, we're not gonna really be able to beat the veterans of USL and go at it from that aspect. That's fine. But if you have people also not listening to you, that makes things way harder. And I I think that just would tilt everybody, to be fair.
I mean, without a doubt, it's the not listening part that's the absolute worst. I mean, just going back to macro data again, we were for the most part pretty new, but we walked in knowing, yeah, we're going to lose by a lot, but we're just going to listen, ask the right questions, and hopefully get better bit by bit. And it worked out. We certainly finished the season way better than we started. But if anyone wasn't listening or just not putting the effort, they need to go.
Absolutely. And you guys, the macro data is a great example of this because you all committed to the task. And even though you thought you might lose these games, you invested, you listened, and you were patient. And that patience paid dividends, man. Those wins were big. So I think that's a great example for other squads to say, like, just because you have guys coming in this league without the experience, you can still win the games, but it requires leaning on each other and playing conservatively and smart and taking advantage when you have the numbers advantage. Just doing the work to get the lead and then keep it. So, I'm not sure about advice specifically for teammates who aren't listening. Other than, I mean, sometimes subs have to be made, and I think you have to talk to your captain about that. If somebody's not listening, hopefully you have another option you can go to because people who aren't listening should be sat. That's for sure.
Yeah, just to touch back up on it, I would rather have somebody maybe not as skilled in, but willing to listen than somebody who might be a better player mechanically that just doesn't listen and does their own thing.
100%. I got a bunch of questions on Eric and Splitta this week. I've boiled it down to 3, and I'm going to ask those questions. Let's see here. And anybody can chime in however they feel appropriate. With the recent addition of Eric on Out for Blood, who does the panel think will play AT going forward? Mountain and Eric both played like ass on AT in week 1. Should they even be playing AT or just stick to Marine? Now that Eric has joined what was essentially Punk Buster before he faded that squad, does the panel think he will take over leading for OFB, or will it stay a mixture of SV, ESO, Mecha, and Eric as a joint effort? And what style of leading / playing best suits OFB, given that their medics appear to be the weak link right now? That was 4 questions in one. And if you need me to repeat any of them, I can do that. That's how the question came in. So
that's a soft question.
Yeah, fucking brain bug. I will say that I will likely play AT over SV, so he can be with the main group. I am not going to lead whatsoever. I'll help shot call, but I think you see when Mecha comes to the lineup, it's going to be a combination of everybody. And I forgot the rest of it.
It was what style of leading or playing best suits OFB, given this is an interesting part of the question, I thought. Given that the medics seem to be the weakness right now, what do you do to best shield those medics with the strong Marine lineup you have? Is there a certain way you can play to try to mitigate that problem?
I think you see a slower paced game so that the medics aren't constantly chasing the aggressors. Now, the medics always want to be with the aggressive people, right? Because they're going to be doing the damage, but you got to reel in some of that aggression and play it slow until you get a pretty surmountable lead, and then you can play that aggression, right? So I think, especially with Mecha leading, you'll see a slower pace style.
Anybody else? Yosh?
I mean, he said it. I mean, he's on their squad, so I would figure he has the insight to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's spot on.
I'm just reading what I got said. Why is Eric so overrated? He had 3 bad games on the most overpowered squad in USL League history, and then he starts this season off with a whopping 1-8. How many more bad games does Eric have to play for people to realize that without Sav, he gets bodied like he works at the corners? That is a public chat comment from Splitta. That is a question for this group.
That's pretty good.
All right. One of you two answer it since I answered the last one.
Yosh, it's all you.
Like, I think a lot of it just comes down to not playing well. You know, a lot of this game comes down to who you're playing with and around as well. As far as like having bad games on the most stacked team, I mean, when you're playing with better players and the game isn't run up as much, everybody's competing for kills. So not everybody can have a bunch of kills. I think just doing your job sometimes is the right way to do things.
Yeah.
So
if I could piggyback off of that, I would associate this with Marvel Rivals. Like, I think Eric plays like a dive DPS character. Like that's his natural role on any team. Is Eric plays best when he is not the focus of the offense in terms of stopping him. And if that's with Sav, sure, it could be with other people too. He is not the focus, and when he's not the focus, I think he actually does really, really well. And it's kind of like a Black Panther or a Wanda or something. If the rest of the team is engaging and he gets the chance to hit him from the back, like that, I mean, that's where Eric does the best. When you don't see his law coming from the back, I think that's a good position for him to be in. But that's not every team, and that sure as fuck wasn't Sunday.
That's all I got.
Okay.
I'm reading pub chat.
Okay. All right, the next one. Why does someone that has one good week act like they just won the league? Split comes out here spraying bottles in Eric's face and talking trash, but wasn't Split the one that said he didn't need Sav to win? Yet here we are, riding the coattails of Sav, acting like he just pulled off something so amazing against a squad that does the same South play over and over. Does the panel think Split can stay consistent while riding Sav's white horse all season, or is he destined to fall into obscurity when season 27 meets Birds?
I think Birds is going to be a wake-up call for him, in all honesty. I think he's going to have a good overall season. But yeah, stacked up against Birds, I think he gets exposed.
Wasn't the performance against the so-called stacked squads basically what separates the wheat from the chaff? If you're farming V2 or whatever, but you're sucking versus the top squads, can you really say you're the best?
I think Splitta is like the past 3 seasons. I think have been Splitta's best seasons that I've ever seen him play, and I've been watching him since 2000. Like, I think they're the best I've seen him play. He used to be, at one point, he was an off the bench player in SL. Then he transformed into this kind of a 6th, 7th man kind of position. He stayed at for a real long time, and then he became a starter. A regular starter, and now I think he's like a 1-2-3 Marine. That's the way he should be. I think his he does the best at focusing on the other side of the battlefield more than just anybody else sees it. He has a lot of good vision for that, but I still think he struggles sometimes on getting pushed. And I do think that the exposure comes against some of the higher level squads. I think that his what weaknesses he still has in his play, you're going to see those against guys like Tactical and Gift for sure. And yeah, it just gives him an opportunity to work on those sides of his game. I think he has great games. I think he has some bad games against them. Kind of depends on the day. I think this season is a chance to show that he's a different man and a lead Marine. So we'll see when they match up. I'm really looking forward to the season 27 Birds game. I think it's going to be fantastic. Anybody else?
yeah, I got. Oh no.
Okay.
I got my bad question.
The Out for Blood medics got obliterated on Sunday. Victim went 2-7, -0, 1-10. What does Out for Blood do to get good medics in the game? Is Victim overhyped from the past 2 seasons? And where do poor heals rate on a list of problems for Out for Blood against Dark Slayers?
I think poor heals or I guess lack of surviving ranks number 1 because you already have the marine power, right? If your meds are dropping or not being able to produce heals for you, that's the biggest issue. I think that obviously not this week, but when I'm eligible to play and Mecca's eligible to play and Sleepy Shas isn't passed out, then you see Apollo go back to medic and it's Apollo and Victim. Because Neg couldn't should have win.
I disagree on the. I think the biggest problem is leadership. I think the positions, it really doesn't matter what medics you have. You could add 2 irons, and I think the position you were in there, you were getting slaughtered. But at the same time, it like your point, it's probably number 2 because it really didn't help to have Neg die twice in one battle. That kind of this just doesn't. Yeah, you got to stay up to keep those guys up, and hopefully you can fight your way back to stabilize. But they didn't get a chance to stabilize because the medics died first. I think that the medics got focused out, and Victim. I think Victim needs a good second med, somebody who's going to stay up to give him some confidence in his game because there's a chance that he does get focused out. But I think Victim has made leaps and bounds in his game. He's improved a lot in since he came back, and I think he's a big part of this team, and he needs to be. But that second med spot, if it's Apollo, whoever, it is a question right now of what to do there. But I'd put it's the number 2 issue myself.
I think it's the number 1 issue, to be honest. Like, if you're dead, if your medics are dead, the first the first death in every fight, it don't matter what kind of leading you're doing, you're gonna lose that game, and you're gonna lose it pretty bad. Like, I mean, I know Victim is your boy and all, but he played horrible that
I don't
game,
think he had a
to
good
be
game.
honest.
I don't think he had a good game. I think Negs was I think they were both pretty bad, to be quite honest, and they got picked apart. But I mean, like, when you got that many streams coming at you in that south position, watch that game back and look at how many streams are hitting that team below river. Like, nobody's living through that. Nobody. That's 7 streams. Like,
Yeah.
like that's crazy. I don't know. I agree though. Nobody played well on OFB as far as medics, and that's an issue. That's a concern moving forward for sure.
Yeah, I think it's an issue they solve, to be honest. I've been told that there's things in the work.
If they were to pick
So
up somebody, that would not surprise me at all, because that, frankly, is where my mind goes. That if there's anybody to pick up, like a Noir or somebody like that, like somebody that's just not looking to start right now for the team they're on, but really could have, that's where I would be looking personally.
I don't think Noir's better than Neg. No.
Yeah, I would, but that's me. I don't know, Eric Herthbul, if you guys have any opinions on that, but I would probably. You want a medic that doesn't die.
I actually agree with Josh. I would take Neg over Noir at this point.
100%.
Noir is super faded.
Are we talking sober Neg or drunk Neg?
Doesn't matter.
It needs to be drunk Neg because we saw sober Neg on Sunday.
Sober Neg was not cutting it.
Like one wine cooler Neg would be a good way to go. I think just one. Let's see here. Next question I got is the past 2 seasons we've seen steady growth and consistency from Dark Slayers and USL. Based on the results of Week 1, is Season 53 the season we see Dark Slayers make a run to the championship game, maybe even get a ring?
No. I think
No.
they're going to get stopped at the semis. They've done a good job. Like, they've kind of gotten rid of a lot of the CTF core that they started with and integrated a lot of more USLers into it. Fausto leading, has been huge for them. I think I'm happy to see the reemergence of Chuck. That's cool, right? I know he's an original Dark Slayer. So, but other than that, I think there's maybe 3, maybe 4 original Dark Slayers that I know of left on that roster.
If last semis showed us anything, they were on a balanced map. They weren't able to do anything against K-Dude when in the previous season they lost by 1 to Birds or whatever the iteration of that was, right? So if they obviously the top 2 are going to be season 27 and Birds, like I think they just, depending on the map, it's not gonna bode well for them. So I agree. I think they get stopped in the semis.
Yosh, you had a couple questions?
Yeah, so I got 2. Let me ask the first one. So this came in. How's the current league administrator doing from an off season through week 2? Is there something you'd like for him and his DAs to work on coming into this next week and the weeks beyond?
I think the season's gone very well from the get go. It went off without a hitch this weekend. I thought I like the implementation of the auto spec. We were talking about maybe there needs to be some leniency a little bit because it was pretty freaking harsh. But I thought it went very well. I like the coordination that Fausto is. He's very active as opposed to his last admin role. And available for questions. He's hounding me about videos and other things. He's wanting things to get done in neat and orderly fashion so the USL functions and shows the way that a league's supposed to operate. I think he's doing a great job.
First off, fuck Fausto. Secondly, no, I think he's doing a good job. Him and Tactical and Victim are on point. I do think that LMG should have been nerfed. Just putting that out there. And I feel like because Bowen was admin at the time, the LMG 27 kind of distracted the problem of LMG, so it got pushed to the wayside and left untouched. So that's my only criticism.
Yeah, other than that, I think Fossil's doing an amazing job. He's active in Discord. Not too many problems popped up. Like Eric said, I do think LMG should have been toned down. AT got a pretty heavy nerf. I think it's, LMG's time.
Well, technically, LMG only got rank 1 in 1 of the 3 games this weekend, with AT getting the other rank 1.
That we need to nerf them both again. I think Herth is in agreement.
I like the idea. I mean, an LMG is a light machine gunner. Like in World War II, the MG-42 was the most dangerous single infantry unit on the field. I like the idea that there's one of them and they're dangerous if you stand in front of them. I think that's fantastic. I think that's exactly the way it was designed and intended to be implemented. I don't like LMG being touched. I think we touched it enough. Stop touching it. Leave it alone.
I mean, that's the worst Skip Bayless take I've ever heard. But continue.
Yep, that's my take. I like the chance that every team has a Kaga or a I don't know if Fausto ran it. Like everybody has a chance to put one good shooter on that role and he can have a breakout game. I think that's kind of a cool concept, but that's me.
All right. I got 2 more.
You got one, 2 more? Okay, go for it.
I've got one on LMG.
Oh, boom.
Let's follow it up. Let's go.
All right. The infamous Rat Kaga has concluded his campaign to get 18 nerfed, ensuring LMG ranks 1 in all matches moving forward. Will the community recognize that LMG 27 was a distraction to keep the original LMG intact and Kaga on top?
Brilliant plan.
Absolutely true.
300 IQ play.
I would say this is such a 5-head play.
I mean, bring back the balance committee.
Nobody's ruder than you, Kaga. Yeah, well done. Good
question.
Go ahead, Yosh.
All right. Next question I got is: do you respect Bax for leaving season 27 to go to a bottom tier squad after realizing that Pister won't start him? Let's face it, Bax could have easily stayed and benched and won a ring. Instead, he chose to help a bottom squad like V2.
I give him credit for that. I'll give him credit right now. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, I thought it was a good call. I thought he played the best on the squad. I thought, if he contributes like that week after week, he's going to have a decent season himself. So, good on him. The league needs more
Bax asking questions about himself.
No, that was actually not from Bax. That was from somebody else.
Don't you lie to me.
I'm not lying to you. I mean, yeah, if you're not going to start, then go where you can play, right? If he doesn't feel like he has a chance to start on that team and wants to go help somebody else, by all means, go do it. I think pretty good concept.
Yeah, good on him for going to help Smack Rock out. I do think he should be the primary LMG on them or on that team. I know Smack was playing it the first like 15, 20 minutes in their last match, but once Bax switched to it, you saw him getting way more kills than when he was trying to play Ranger. So let Bax LMG and he'll be able to contribute to them continuously.
No, I agree. No, Bax was great on LMG. I mean, he mowed down Chompy and Fax like they weren't even there.
Yeah, I mean, get a med with him, right? Stick a med on him and stick a Marine and have him go to work.
Yeah.
Maybe they could do something.
Yeah, that's something to pivot off of for sure. I mean, when you don't have a lot of options, use the ones you got.
Yep. All right. My last question is, can Eric walk us through his decision on leaving WA? What did he see that made him leave without giving the squad a chance? Eric, the floor is yours.
Eric's just getting picked on.
Nah, it's fine. I'll preface this with during our SBs during the week, I would make suggestions on what we should have done. Yeah. And it would get kind of dismissed. So during the match, like when we're continuously going south, and to avoid tilting or getting into an argument mid-match, I just let Bird do what he did, because anytime I made a suggestion during the week, like I said, it got dismissed, right? So the fact that he was still doing the South thing when we saw it on One Love doesn't give me much confidence that he would be able to adapt and change styles on the fly. And then, yeah, that was mainly the leadership is what made me leave.
Pretty direct answer there. I have one more question that is targeted at Eric also, so I'll follow this up. And I maybe should have asked it earlier when we were talking about Fausto. Eric, what do you have against Fausto? Why is your intro always an insult against our new admin? Put some goddamn respect on that man's name.
I will never put respect on Fausto's name. Fuck that guy.
Why do you say that?
I just that's my greeting to him, dude. No, I love Fausto. I've played with him many seasons, and it's just a continuation of how I greet him, dude. That's it.
Okay, you're just greeting him to the whole audience every time.
Yep.
Very kindly. Okay.
Eric,
okay.
I don't think Eric's telling the whole truth here. Let's be honest, Eric. When Fausto didn't meet Neg at Don Carter's, that was the start of it for you, wasn't it? Neg was there.
Tell people that, dude.
The people deserve to know. All right.
All right. It's some long vendetta that's just now rearing its ugly head. Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. Some announcements. Again, mailbag questions. We want them. Send your questions to me as a private message anytime through Discord. I'll keep all questions anonymous unless you request your name be read or unless you post it in public chat. Splitta. Then let's see here. Military Police just created a new ping system for the Discord channel. This is a system where you have to opt in to get pings related to certain categories. Right now, there's news, mixed games, and polls, allowing posters to tag that ping and then alert everyone who's opted in to get a chance to see that post. Particularly for mixes, I want to encourage USL players to sign up for that feature so we can get people involved and encourage people to come out. Any final comments from anybody else on the panel?
Thank you, MP, for running the Discord.
Yeah, no kidding.
Where's War Machine Wednesday, bruh? Come on now. Hey, let me just put this out here. Classic Skirmish Monday. Oof. Huge L.
Okay. Well, that will do it for USL Live and the Season 53 Week 2 preview show. You can play Infantry for free. Download the game right now for free on Steam. Just type Free Infantry in the search bar or visit freeinfantry.com. If you're interested in league play, please visit uslzone.com. Sign-ups on site where you can view roster schedules and forums. Be sure to check out our available videos also on the Infantry Online YouTube page. built and maintained by military police. You can relive the nostalgia anytime you want by going back to watch play from past seasons. I know many people are taking advantage of that. Also want to shout out that for some reason, the Evolution versus Darkslayers game from last season's playoffs somehow got into the algorithm. I think we have over 400 views now on that video. I don't know how that happened, but there are not 400 people playing this game. So that was an interesting development. I'd like to thank my co-host for today's show. That was Yerth, Herthbul, and Eric. We are... Eric? We are expecting Mecca to join us next week again, I think. So Eric will step back and in depending on availability, so you'll see him here and there. Thank you to our executive producer, Military Police. This has been Romulocks, and you've been listening to USL Live.